The sprinkler head was sputtering like a cornered hamster, spitting out a pathetic mist that dampened exactly one square foot of my new, perfectly average lawn. I was on my hands and knees in the damp grass, poking it with a screwdriver. This, I thought, was the American dream. Home ownership, a non-functional irrigation system, and a creeping suspicion that I was in way over my head. This was my first house, my starter home, as the realtor had called it, with the same enthusiasm one might use for a starter case of shingles. It was in a nice suburban neighborhood, which is code for aggressively beige. The houses were all some variation of sandstone, desert tan, or if you were a real risk-taker, Greige. I had just managed to get the sprinkler to stop its death rattle and start spraying me directly in the face when a shadow fell over me. A tiny, yapping shadow followed by a larger, visor-wearing one. "Sir Reginald," a sharp voice called out. "Stop that. You don't know where he's been." I wiped the probably reclaimed water from my glasses. It was Karen. Of course it was Karen. Karen was the self-appointed president of the Neighborhood Watch, the Beautification Committee, and, from what I could tell, the local chapter of People Who Have Too Much Damn Time on Their Hands. She was in her 50s, wore a turquoise visor indoors and out, and was currently clutching the leash of a dog so small and anxious it looked like a trembling ball of lint. Sir Reginald, the ball of lint in question, was yapping at my shins. "Morning, Karen," I said, pushing myself up. "Sir Reginald." "David." She gave a curt nod, her eyes scanning. "New opener on the garage? Looks sturdy. Same color." I glanced at the garage. It was, indeed, the same color. Yeah. They had a sale on sandstone, which is just beige with an attitude." Karen didn't laugh. I'm not sure her face was capable of it. She stopped, put her hands on her hips, and let out a long, long sigh. It was the kind of sigh you'd expect from someone watching a baby seal get clubbed. "David, can I be frank?" My internal monologue screamed. Oh God, no. Frank is not welcome here. Only beige, non-confrontational people are welcome here. Frank is a 4-letter word. Please, Karen, just go back to judging my unmowed for 5 days lawn. "Sure, Karen," I said, my voice cracking slightly. "Lay it on me." She looked at my house, not just at it, but through it, as if she could see the very studs and foundation and was finding them lacking. "It's just your house is bland." She said it like she was diagnosing a terminal illness, like she was telling me I had 3 weeks to live and I should spend them not being so beige. "I'm sorry?" "Bland," she repeated, tasting the word. "It's a beige box in a sea of slightly different beige boxes. It has no personality. It brings the whole zip code down." She looked down at her shivering dog. "Sir Reginald is bored just looking at it. Aren't you, Reggie?" "Yes, you are." Sir Reginald gave a half-hearted yip, as if to say, "The beige, it haunts me." I had no response. What do you say to that? "Sorry, Karen. I'll go buy some personality at Home Depot right after I fix the sprinkler." She shook her head, the visor glinting. "You just moved in, David. This is your chance to make a statement, to contribute. This is just sad. Think about it." And with that, she and her trembling accessory turned and continued their power walk patrol. I stood there, soaked and stunned. I'd been called a lot of things in my life. Too quiet. A little nerdy. My ex-girlfriend, Sarah, in our final talk, had said I was too comfortable which I think was just a polite way of saying bland. But house bland? Brings the whole zip code down bland? Her comment stung. It wasn't just a critique. It was an accusation. And the worst part? She was right. I walked inside. My beige carpet welcomed me into my beige hallway, which was lit by a beige lampshade. My beige toaster sat on my beige laminate countertop. I looked at my couch. It was oatmeal. My walls were eggshell. My life was a symphony of non-committal neutrals. I'd bought the house right after the breakup. Sarah had taken the well. She'd taken the one colorful thing we owned, a bright red KitchenAid mixer. The rest was all mine, all this beige. My anxiety, a familiar humming engine, kicked into high gear. I spiraled. Was I bland? Was my entire life a monument to sandstone? I was a data analyst. I spent my days making spreadsheets make sense. I drove a silver sedan. I liked IKEA furniture, and my sex life had been efficient, missionary style only. Oh my God, Karen was right. I was bland. My house was just the physical manifestation of my beige, empty soul. That night, I didn't make my sensible chicken breast and steamed broccoli. I ordered a pizza with everything on it and drank 3 IPAs, one right after the other. Fueled by spite and a growing, bubbling panic, I sat at my beige computer. I typed, "How to make house less bland" into Google. The results were bland. Add a colorful welcome mat. Paint your front door a bold navy blue. Consider a tasteful window box. I could hear Karen laughing. A window box, David? How daring! I kept digging. I drank 2 more IPAs. I was getting angry. Angry at Karen, angry at Sarah, angry at the guy who sold me sandstone paint. I scrolled past landscaping and siding. I clicked on modern architecture. Too expensive. Exterior design. Too boring. And then I saw it. Street art murals. I clicked a link. It was an anonymous portfolio. No names, just pictures. And the art, oh, the art. It was wild. It was huge, vibrant, and alive. Buildings weren't just painted. They were transformed. They had personality. It was the absolute polar opposite of beige. It was the opposite of me. My fingers, sticky with pizza grease, hovered over the mouse. This was insane. This was HOA suicide. This was perfect. I clicked the Contact tab. The next morning, I woke up with a pounding headache and a screen full of wow. The Street Art Murals website was still glowing on my monitor. The rational beige part of my brain screamed, no. This was a nice neighborhood. You didn't just do that. Okay, I said to my oatmeal couch. Baby steps, Dave. Baby steps. Before I did anything drastic, I would try the normal route. I would hire a normal contractor. Maybe Karen was right, and all I needed was something, a statement piece. I'd appease the gods of suburbia. I found a local company called Mike's All Around Handyman and Siding. The website looked like it was built in 1998, which, in a weird way, I found reassuring. The tagline was, "If it's broke, we fix it. If it ain't, we can still paint it." I called. A gruff voice answered, "Mike?" "Hi, Mike. This is Dave. I need an estimate?" "For what? Pizzazz?" There was a long pause. I heard a sound that might have been chewing. "You need an estimate for pizzazz?" "Exterior pizzazz," I clarified, my voice squeaking. "For my house, to make it less bland. Another longer pause. Right. Bland. I'm on Juniper Street right now. I can be at your place in 20. What's the address? 20 minutes later, a Ford F-250 that looked like it had personally survived a war pulled up. A large man got out. He smelled like sawdust, chewing tobacco, and bacon. It was Mike. He had a clipboard and a pencil behind his ear. "All right, Chief," he said, not offering a handshake. "This the bland one?" "This is it," I said. Mike stood on the sidewalk, chewing, and just looked. "Yep, it's beige, all right. What's your budget?" "I don't know," I said, nervously. "I'm just exploring options. I want to, add some pizzazz." Mike sighed, the sigh of a man who has been asked to quantify the unquantifiable. "Pizzazz? Yeah, make it pop. Give it some personality?" Mike flipped to a clean page on his clipboard. "Right. Personality. We got options?" He walked me to his truck and pulled out a heavy laminated binder that looked like it had been run over. He flipped it open. "We got vinyl siding. This forest green is popular. Real popular." "It's nice," I said. "But, right, not pizzazzy enough?" He flipped a page. "We got colonial blue. We got barn red. Very red." "I think I'm thinking Boulder." "Boulder?" He nodded, chewing. "Right, we can do stone veneer. Faux stone. Looks real from a real long way off." "No, not stone," I said, my frustration growing. "More artistic." Mike looked at me. He looked at the house. He looked at his chewing tobacco spit cup in his truck's console. "Artistic. Right. You want one of them big ol' suns? Like a metal sun you nail to the wall? Got a buddy over in Tempe, makes them out of saw blades, real shiny." My internal monologue was having a meltdown. This man is trying to sell me a live, laugh, love sign the size of a Toyota. This is not pizzazz. This is the opposite of pizzazz. This is beige with a sun. "No suns, Mike." "Right, no suns." He was losing patience. "Look, Chief, you want artistic, you get a painter. You want siding, you get me. I can paint your trim. That's a thing." "Paint the trim?" "Yeah, we could do sassy white." "You mean off-white?" "No, this one's sassy. It's got more, tude." I was defeated. The consultation was a disaster. "How much?" I whispered. For the sassy trim?" Mike did some math on his clipboard, his pencil scratching. "We got a prep, prime, 2 coats for the whole house trim, only I could do it for $8,000. $8,000 to paint my trim sassy white. I'll think about it, Mike. I gotta mull this." "You mull it, Chief." Mike got back in his truck, the suspension groaning. "You want sassy? You call me. Otherwise, it's just white." He drove off, leaving a small cloud of bacon sawdust-smelling exhaust. I went back inside. $8,000 for trim. Karen and her bland comment had now cost me an afternoon of my life and a consultation with a man who wanted to sell me a metal sun. I sat back down at my computer, defeated. I looked at the sassy white quote. I looked at the street art mural portfolio. The art was so not sassy. It was loud. It was defiant. It was glorious. This time, I didn't just look. I found the contact form. My spite from the night before returned, now with a healthy dose of anti-contractor rage. I cracked my knuckles. I was done with sassy white. I was done with sandstone. I was done with Karen. I typed a single, fateful message. I have a 2-story canvas in the suburbs, and a neighbor I need to give a mild to severe aesthetic-based aneurysm to. Are you available? I hit send before the beige anxiety could stop me. I didn't expect a reply. I figured it would go into the void, like a message in a bottle thrown into the great, beige ocean of the internet. My phone buzzed 10 minutes later. An email. From an address that was just a string of numbers. The subject line was, "Re the canvas." The body was short and cryptic. Aneurysms are a valid artistic motivator. Coffee, noon. The crooked spoon. Come alone. My blood ran cold. Come alone? What was this? A spy movie? A drug deal? Was I about to get my kidneys harvested by a street artist? The crooked spoon wasn't even in my nice part of town. It was downtown, in the artsy district, the place where people wore scarves in the summer. I spent the entire next morning in a state of low-grade panic. I told myself I wouldn't go. It was stupid. It was dangerous. I should just call Mike and what? Haggle him down to $7,500 for the sassy trim? At 11:45 a.m., I was in my silver sedan, parked 3 blocks away from the crooked spoon, trying to get up the nerve to go in. You can do this, Dave. You're not bland. You're aneurysm motivator guy. That's a thing. I walked in. The place smelled like burnt coffee and patchouli. The indie music was too loud. I was, by a factor of about 30, the most beige person in the room. I scanned for I don't know what I was expecting. A guy in a hoodie, covered in paint, looking shifty. Dave? I turned. A 20-something person was sitting in a corner booth, sketching in a leather-bound notebook. They were sharp, tiny round glasses, black turtleneck, professionally distressed jeans. They looked less like a delinquent and more like they were about to give a TED Talk on, I don't know, the postmodern condition of lattes. Yeah, hi, I said. Are you? Sly, they said, not looking up from their sketchbook. Sit. I sat. A tiny espresso was in front of them. You're late, Sly said. Sorry, traffic. There wasn't traffic. You were scared. It's fine. Sly finally looked up. Their eyes were piercing, analytic. They were scanning me like Karen scanned my house. The canvas. Describe its emotional state. I was completely lost. I'm sorry. My house? Sly sighed, a deep, exasperated sound. The house, man. The canvas. What's its vibe? Is it depressed? Is it repressed? Is it screaming into a beige void? I think it's screaming into a beige void. Yeah, definitely that. Sly nodded, satisfied, and went back to sketching. Good. We can work with that. The aneurysm neighbor, what's her poison? Metaphors. What's her metaphorical poison? Is she a control freak? A conformity warden? She's the president of the beautification committee, I said. Oh, that's rich. A small smile played on Sly's lips. A beautification committee. Fantastic. That's dialogue. We're going to have a dialogue with the inherent conformity of the suburban landscape. Great. A dialogue, I stammered. So what's the plan? The plan. Sly took a sip of espresso. The plan is art, Dave. The plan is I show up, I interrogate the space, and I liberate your canvas. My fee is $3,000 and total creative freedom. 3,000, I swallowed. That was significantly less than the sassy trim. And total creative freedom? Total. But like my HOA. I don't do HOAs, Dave. No, I know, it's just, can you not use any swear words? Or like pictures of skulls? Or I don't know anything satanic? Sly looked at me, deadpan. This isn't anarchy, Dave. This is art. I'm not here to deface your house. I'm here to liberate it. Do you want liberation, or do you want a metal sun? How did they know about the sun? Liberation, I said, my voice a little stronger. Definitely liberation. Good. Sly snapped the sketchbook shut. I work only at night. I'll need 2 nights. This Friday. The equinox. The equinox? Is that important? It's just Friday, Dave. It just sounds cooler. You will provide a 24-foot extension ladder, high wattage protection, and plausible deniability. My internal monologue was back. High wattage? Protection? Does he mean a gun? I don't have a gun. I have a malfunctioning sprinkler and a lot of beige anxiety. I can't protect anyone. You mean like bright lights? I asked, my voice a squeak. Sly sighed again. Yes, Dave, bright lights. And you. You are the protection from discourse. If anyone discourses with me, you will handle the discourse. You mean if Karen shows up? Precisely. You are the discourse handler. Now my fee. Half up front in cash, half on completion. I had not brought cash. I'd brought a debit card and a lot of anxiety. I have to go to a bank. You do, Sly said, already packing up their bag. Be ready, Dave. We're going to make something beautiful and mildly traumatizing for Kay Henderson. Sly was gone. They hadn't even finished their espresso. I was left in a cloud of patchouli, with the thrumming of bad indie music in my ears, and a deep, churning, exhilarating feeling of, oh God, what have I done? Friday. I mean, the equinox arrived. I felt like I was planning a bank heist, not a home renovation. I'd gone to Home Depot and bought the 24-foot extension ladder. I'd bought 2 massive 1,000-watt and probably illegal construction lights, the kind that can illuminate a small stadium or, apparently, interrogate a suburban canvas. I'd spent the entire day sweating, jumping at every car that drove by. Was this discourse? Was I handling it? Karen had done her power walk patrol at 8:15 a.m., sharp. She'd eyed my ladder, which was still in my garage, and I felt like she knew, like her bland dar was going off. Yard work, David, she'd called out. Just cleaning the gutters, I'd yelled back, my voice cracking. The gutters are clean, she'd said. I had them all cleaned last week. Billed to the HOA. Right, just checking their work. Can't be too careful. She'd narrowed her eyes and walked on. I'd spent the rest of the day hiding indoors. Night fell. A thick, suburban darkness, broken only by the pale orange glow of the tasteful streetlights. At 11 p.m., as agreed, I set up the lights. I flicked the switch. My house ignited. It was like a movie premiere. My beige sandstone paint, under the glare of 2,000 watts, looked even more beige. It was aggressively beige. I was pacing, drinking a Red Bull, my heart hammering against my ribs. 11:15 p.m. No Sly. 11:30 p.m. No Sly. Had I been scammed? Had I just given $1,500 in cash, in a bank envelope, to a postmodern latte artist who was now halfway to Mexico? At 11:45 p.m., a car rolled up, its headlights off. It wasn't a graffiti van. It was a pristine, silent, white Toyota Prius. Sly got out, dressed in black overalls, a black hoodie, and a high-tech respirator. They looked like a ninja who also recycled. The lights are good, Sly said, their voice slightly muffled. Good wattage. Where's the ladder? For the next 30 minutes, we set up. Sly was a machine. They unloaded dozens of cases of spray paint from the trunk of the Bussen. Prius. Not just Graff cans. These were fancy. Imported, it looked like. Cans with names like Montana Gold and flame. "Okay, discourse handler," Sly said, strapping a headlamp on. "Your job is this." Sly pointed to the sidewalk. "You look out. You pace. You handle the discourse. My job is this." Sly clicked on a massive boombox. Not loud music, just a low, thrumming, ambient electronica. "It centers me," Sly said. "Now go, pace." And I did. I paced. And Sly began. The first sound was a psst, a long, controlled hiss. A line of electric blue, 10 feet long, appeared on my beige wall. Then another. Psst, ch-ch-ch-ch. Sly was fast. They weren't just painting, they were dancing. Up the ladder, down the ladder, grabbing a different can. Psst, hiss. The air filled with a chemical, fruity smell. My house was changing, right before my eyes. I paced. I drank another Red Bull. I was vibrating. This was happening. "Sly," I whisper shouted, an hour in. The side of my house was no longer beige. It was colors. So many colors. "Sly, that's fuchsia! Is that fuchsia? That is so much fuchsia!" Sly paused, halfway up the ladder, a vision in the glare of the work lights, surrounded by a mist of fuchsia. "It's magenta, Dave." Sly's voice was muffled by the respirator. "It's interrogating the false dichotomy of suburban masculinity. Just hold the ladder." "I am. I'm holding it. You're so high." "The art is high, Dave. The art is transcendent." Psst. I jumped at every owl hoot. I flinched at every car that passed on the main road, a block away. I was a 30-something data analyst, acting as a lookout for a suburban art ninja, while my house was being liberated by a cloud of magenta. At 2:30 a.m., it happened. Headlights, slowing down, a patrol car. My soul left my body. My bowels, they considered it. The black and white cruiser pulled up, its spotlight flicking on, pinning me and Sly like two very busted insects. Sly froze on the ladder. The car door opened. A cop got out, slow, hand on his belt. "Evening, sir." The cop's voice cut through the ambient electronica. "Little late for whatever this is." It was Officer Miller. I'd seen him at the Neighborhood Watch chili cook-off. Karen's chili had lacked pizzazz. "Officer Miller! Hi," I said, my voice, I was vibrating. I was a human Red Bull anxiety vibrator. "Just painting. You know, a little late-night touch-up. Good for the, primer. The cool air, it helps the adhesion?" Officer Miller, a man who looked like he had seen everything and was so tired of all of it, shined his massive flashlight up at Sly. Sly, frozen, was posing. "With spray paint?" Miller asked, his voice flat. And then Sly spoke, in their art voice. It was booming. "I'm a licensed and bonded contractor, officer," Sly shouted down. "This is a commissioned public art installation, sanctioned under Uch Municipal Beautification Code 41B, as in beautiful." I what? My internal monologue was, he's baffling them with bullshit. It's working. Officer Miller shined the light away from Sly and onto me. I was blinded. This is your house?" Miller asked. "It is," I squeaked, shielding my eyes. "It's my beige screaming into the void house, sir! And you're paying him to do this." I looked at the house. It was glorious. It was insane. It was so much magenta. "I am," I said, finding a spine. "He's very in demand. He's liberating my canvas." Officer Miller pinched the bridge of his nose. He let out a sigh that rivaled Karen's, a sigh that said, "I don't get paid enough for this art discourse." "Right," Miller said. "Well, your neighbor, Mrs. Henderson Karen, reported suspicious hissing and a chemical smell. She thought you had a meth lab." "Nope," I said, a little too loud. "Just magenta, lots and lots of magenta, and, azure blue and canary yellow." Miller looked at the house. He looked at me, vibrating, holding a can of Red Bull. He looked at Sly, who had actually gone back to painting. "Right," Miller said. He clicked his flashlight off. "Just try to keep the hissing down, and the magenta, and the ambient electronica. Some of us are sleeping." "Yes, sir. Thank you, sir." Officer Miller got back in his car. He sat there for a long, long, long minute. Then he just drove away. I handled the discourse. I had a small heart attack. I fist-pumped. Sly shouted down, "That was legit, discourse handler. You handled it. Now back to work. This void isn't going to interrogate itself." Sly worked until 4:30 a.m., and then they were gone. Like a suburban art ninja fairy. The Prius gone. The ladder gone. The boombox gone. The dozens of empty Montana gold cans all gone. All that was left was the thing. And me. I was a wreck. I was coming down off 6 Red Bulls. I was covered in a fine mist of magenta. My beige soul was spent. I went inside. I couldn't look. I made coffee. I trembled. The sun started to rise. That pale, suburban, pink-orange glow. At 6:00 a.m., coffee in hand, my oatmeal robe comforting me, I walked out my front door. I looked up. My house was wow. It wasn't graffiti. It wasn't vandalism. It was a masterpiece. Sly was a genius. The fuchsia, magenta, was perfect. My entire 2-story house was a massive, swirling, breathtaking mural. It was a surrealist landscape. The boring flat wall by the garage was gone. In its place was a giant geometric octopus in shades of azure blue and deep royal purple. And he was reading. He had glasses like Sly's glasses, and he was reading a book. The other side of the house, the boring side, was an explosion of abstract flowers, giant canary yellow and electric lime swirls. They flowed with the architecture. They somehow made the house look bigger, bolder. It was beautiful. It was stunning. And it was on my house. I just stared. My coffee was halfway to my mouth. I was frozen. I think Sly is a genius. I also think I'm going to be sued. By everyone. Possibly by the state. My house, my bland, beige, sandstone house, is now the most interesting thing in a 50-mile radius. I've made a terrible, beautiful mistake. The first visitor came at 7:15 a.m. It was a sound. A skirt thud. I was still on my lawn, in my robe, holding my cold coffee. A kid on a skateboard had literally fallen off his board. He was staring. "Duh," he breathed. He scrambled up. He grabbed his phone. "Dude! Is that a Sly original? Holy sick! That is say-ick!" He was taking pictures. He looked at me. You live here? You know SLY? I stammered. "I am the discourse handler?" "Sick!" he yelled. And he skated off fast. Probably to tell people. The second visitor was Mrs. Gable from 2 doors down. She was 80. She was walking her tiny dog, a non-trembling one. She stopped. She pushed her glasses up. "Oh my," she said. Her voice was a whisper. She walked onto my lawn. She was looking up. "Oh my goodness, David." "Mrs. Gable," I braced. It's vibrant, dear." She smiled. It's like one of those tropical birds, the ones that you know scream." I think it's an octopus." "Is it? Well, he's lovely. He looks smart." She patted my arm. "Good for you, dear. Finally, some color. This neighborhood is so dull." She walked away, humming. The third visitor was a minivan. It slowed. It stopped. The window rolled down. It was a power walker mom, one of Karen's lieutenants. Her name was Jen. She took off her sunglasses. "Wow," she said. "Just wow." She looked at me. I was still in my robe. "Just wow, Dave. You're brave." I love it," she whispered. "Don't tell Karen, but I love it. My kids would die." She blew me a kiss and drove off. I was a hero? A brave, robed, octopus-owning hero? And then I heard it. The air raid siren. No, wait, that was Sir Reginald. Yip, 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 yip. Ip! I turned. Karen. She was power walking. No, she was power storming across her lawn, across the street, onto my lawn. She was shaking. Her visor was vibrating. She had a clipboard. "David," she hissed. Sir Reginald was losing his mind. "David, what have you done?" I looked at my house. The octopus seemed to be judging her. I looked at Karen, and a strange calm washed over me. The Red Bull anxiety was gone. I had a sly original. I had handled the discourse with Officer Miller. I could handle this. I took a sip of my cold coffee. "Good morning, Karen," I said. My voice was even. "Coffee?" "Don't good morning me," she screeched. This vandalism, this visual, pollution, this is in direct violation of HOA bylaw 14C, exterior paint and finishes." She was tapping her clipboard. "Actually, Karen," I said, I had actually read the bylaws last night, while pacing. "Actually, Karen, I read the bylaws. Bylaw 14C specifically refers to paint chips and color palettes submitted to the committee. This isn't paint." Karen stared. "It's covered in paint." "No," I said. This is a large-scale mixed media art installation. It's art. It's exempt. It's graffiti," she shouted. I smiled. A real smile. "You said my house was bland, Karen. Does it look bland now?" Her mouth opened and closed. She sputtered. She was speechless. I am calling the city," she finally shrieked. "I am calling the police again. This will not stand." She stormed off. Sir Reginald was literally dragged behind her, his tiny legs scrambling. I watched them go. I saluted the octopus. "I think we handled that discourse," I said. I smiled. The ceasefire lasted 2 days. 2 glorious days. My house became a landmark. The skateboard kid, his name was Tyler, brought his friends. They just sat on the sidewalk and admired it. Mrs. Gable brought me a pie. Apple. It was delicious. Jen, the power walker mom, drove by 6 times. I counted. Karen. Karen was plotting. I could feel it. On Wednesday it happened. An official-looking white truck pulled up. It said, City Code Enforcement. Oh, God. My stomach dropped. This was it. The city. She actually called the city. I was done. I was going to have to paint over the octopus. I was going to have to pay a fine. I walked outside. A man got out of the truck. He was large. He had a clipboard. He had sunglasses on. He was chewing. It was Mike. Mike, the contractor. "All right, Dave," Mike said. His voice was gruff. "Got a flurry of complaints. A real flurry. From a K. Henderson. Says you let's see..." He looked at his clipboard. "Illegally defaced your own property with neon colors and a squid book?" I swallowed. It's an octopus, Mike. And he's reading." Mike sighed. He pushed his sunglasses up. He stepped back onto the sidewalk. He looked at the house. He really looked. He was silent for a long time. He chewed. "Huh," he said. It wasn't an angry huh. It was a confused huh. A grudgingly admiring huh. "So," I said, my voice trembling, Am I in trouble?" Mike looked at his clipboard. He looked at the house. He looked at me. "Well, see, technically," he said, "technically the city code is real specific about paint jobs. Says you can't have peeling paint or obscene materials." He looked up at the octopus. He ain't peeling, and he ain't obscene, he's just readin'." "Right," I said. "And technically," Mike continued, "the HOA bylaw she cited that ain't my department. That's HOA business. So?" "So." Mike lowered his voice. He leaned in. He smelled like sawdust and bacon. "Look, Chief, between you and me, Karen's a nightmare. She called code enforcement last week 'cause a leaf from my truck blew onto her driveway. A leaf. No. Yeah. So this..." He gestured at the house. This is glorious. My kid, my son, he'd love this. He loves squid." "Octopuses," I whispered. "Right. Them too." "So what do we do?" Mike smiled. A slow smile. "Well, see the city, we got a public art initiative. Trying to beautify the suburbs. Make 'em less bland." He said the word. You're kidding," I said. "Nope. So I'll just mark this as pending artistic review by the City Beautification Council." "That's a real thing?" "Oh yeah. And that council, they meet once every 2 years. And their backlog is real long. So this review, that'll put it in committee for, about 6 to 8 years. He scribbled on his clipboard. "So officially," he said, his voice loud again, "you are required to maintain this installation in its current condition. No peeling, no fading. Got it, Chief?" He winked. He tore off a sheet. It was a notice of pending review. "Nice pizzazz, Chief," he said, handing it to me. Real pizzazzy." He got back in his truck. I watched him drive away. I looked at the notice. I looked at the octopus. I was a hero. A bureaucratically protected hero. The showdown happened that weekend. Karen called an emergency HOA meeting. On her lawn, which was aggressively manicured and beige. She had everything. She had a projector, a beige one. She had printouts of the bylaws. She had beige folding chairs. She was ready for war. I showed up. I I brought my notice of pending review. I had laminated it. About 20 neighbors were there. Mrs. Gable, Jen, the power walker mom, Tyler, the skateboard kid who was somehow there. Karen started. "Thank you all for coming," she began. Her voice was tight. "We are here because of this." She clicked her projector. A giant picture of my house appeared on her garage door. "This abomination!" She went on a rant. It was epic. "This is a gateway," she shouted. "A gateway to anarchy, a gateway to urban decay, to loud music and skateboards." Tyler whisper yelled, "Sick." This affects our property values. It makes us look uncared for. It is not what the creek at Beige Willow Estates is about," she breathed. "Now I am proposing an emergency fine of $5,000 on Mr. David Bland, no more Bland & House owner, and a lien on his property until he repaints it a sanctioned color." She glared at me. The neighborhood was silent. I stood up. I cleared my throat. "Actually, Karen." "Sit down, David. It is not your turn." But something different happened. Mrs. Gable stood up, slowly. "Actually, Karen," she said, her voice thin but strong. I rather like it. It's the first interesting thing that's happened on this street since, well, ever." Karen stared. "Mrs. Gable, you don't understand the bylaws." Then Jen, power walker mom, stood up. "I like it too," she said. "My kids love it. They insisted I drive them by yesterday. They're calling it the Octopus House. And my son Aiden, he asked me to take him to the library to get a book about octopuses. He hates reading, Karen. He loves the house." But the anarchy," Karen sputtered. "It's legit, yo," Tyler chimed in. "It's like culture. It's way better than all this beige." Karen looked at her beige army. They were turning. They were murmuring. They liked the octopus? But property values," she screeched. I held up my laminated sheet. "Actually, Karen," I said, "it's pending artistic review by the City Beautification Council. It's official. It's art." Karen's defeat was total. Her face went white. A sassy white, perhaps. She sputtered. She sat down. The emergency meeting was over. 1 month later, I am on my lawn. I am grilling. Burgers, not beige chicken. A small tourist bus. Okay, it's a van with Art Tours R Us on the side, is slowly driving by. My house is a landmark. It's on a tour. I wave. They wave back. Jen, power walker mom, comes out of my house. Yeah, my house. "Hey," she says. "Burgers ready?" "Almost," I say. She thought my bravery was really hot. Her words, we are dating. So yeah, my house is loud. It's bright. It's got a giant reading cephalopod on the side of it. And you know what? I kind of love it. Karen? Karen still crosses the street to avoid it. She put her house up for sale. It hasn't sold. Maybe it's too bland. Sir Reginald, on the other hand? I saw him admiring the octopus the other day. He was wagging his tail. I think he's a fan. My house isn't bland anymore, and maybe, just maybe, neither am I. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm late for a date. We're going, I don't know, spray painting a bridge? Kidding. We're just going to get coffee. But this time I'm ordering the one with the pizzazz.